sometimes see like Orissas, Pharahs, even sometimes Widowmakers come out on this map. But right now, I think something that really stands out to me is Kagasi may be coming out on this Mei. We have seen a lot of Mei play in EU of late, and she kind of provides this sort of it is sort of like a sniper ability as well as having the CC, and she can really slow down tanks as well with that primary fire. So, although it doesn't look like Kagasi's actually going to be playing her, so maybe he'll bring that out again at some point.
Right, and we're just seeing for the time being the Winston. Orgless and Hungry, though, they're running this interesting comp with the two main tanks. The Reinhardt, who just fell into the pit. FD God gets the boop there with that aggressive Reddit Lucio playstyle, and Kagasi on the Winston. So how do these comps fare up against each other?
Well, one thing that you really have to note is the fact that they're running a Moira against a Zenyatta, which I don't think is anything incredibly new, but the Zen has the Discord Orb, and that makes the Moira incredibly vulnerable. She also can have that Fade pressured out of her, which means that she'll be very easy and prone to be dived.
All right, well, the Moira going to pop the Coalescence here, and you've got Chubbs bottled up in there on the Winston. Couldn't quite build up the Primal Rage, might have been able to save himself, and now HSL Esports are in kind of full retreat mode. Sardis goes down. And that's pretty much going to spell disaster for them. HSL, they're just going to try and buy as much time as they possibly can on the point. FD God, though, he's not done. He's still getting kills. He knocks Wadio into the well again before finally being melted down by Berglund here on the Zarya. But HSL, they're still not done. They're going back in. Tech 36 pops the bong onto Henningsen. Dies with the Shatter. Orgless Hungry still with a man advantage, but they haven't capped the point yet. HSL has been able to buy so much time. They're beginning to draw ultimates out as well. Out comes the beat from Orgless and Hungry, and both Primal Rages have been used from both of the Winstons. HSL now popping one of their own sound barriers, but in comes the Graviton Surge from Orgless and Hungry. Berglund looking to clean up the remaining members of HSL, but they've bought so much time for themselves.
Yeah, looks like Orgless and Hungry finally going to get the point in their favor, but not before HSL were able to get 58% themselves. I liked how Berglund was focusing down Tech 36 to ensure that that D.Va was gone before he laid down that Graviton Surge. And I said before that Berglund maybe not the most impressive Zarya in EU trials right now. So it looks good to see that he's thinking a little bit more about the decisions he makes. I really like that. But A10 also has his own Graviton Surge to be coming into the next fight in. We have seen a lot of aggression from HSL, so I'd expect to see that, especially moving through these small choke points here.
Nice little microplay there from A10. Notice how he checks the corner to make sure there's no Zarya there hiding to pop a Graviton Surge, but he tosses it right in the middle. A lot of members caught from Orgless. They need to follow up on this, but they're all going to get knocked down from the Shatter from Henningsen, and he down there with the Transcendence at the ready to counteract it, and now Henningsen caught out, isolated, and will be melted down by A10. HSL need to move on the point, start leveraging the man advantage and the aggression that they have, and there you go. Kagasi really low here, has the Discord as well. You are just marked for death when you got that. HSL know how to focus down the members with that Discord, and they're doing that right now, and they will get the flip back on the point. Very even, 58 to 58.
Yeah, Kagasi's Primal Rage there, allowing him to get across the map very quickly. And FD God, of course, seeing his boops constantly show up in the kill feed. And it's like Nari was saying at the beginning that he shows so much aggression, and using those boops really carefully, especially on a map like this where you have so much opportunity for those environmental kills. Now, Orgless and Hungry coming back in. HSL Esports are on that 75, getting closer to 80%. So we're getting closer and closer to the one fight territory here.
FD God, look at his positioning here, how he's playing. He's looking for all these boops, but in comes the bomb from Leo. Deads into the backline, does not secure any kills. He does get the remake back. HSL again have already used that beat, and Tang has used his as well, so no real support ultimates online, and HSL with the instant double kill. Graviton Surge looking to make it 3. They do just that. They will hold on to the point, and they will cap the map as well, taking the early lead on Nepal.
Yeah, and I think unless Orgless and Hungry can get to the point very quickly, that will be it for HSL. And I really enjoyed watching them play that, especially seeing FD God, and as you mentioned, his positioning, and just constantly being able to get rid of the members of Orgless and Hungry that they needed to in order to acquire their win condition and constantly take back the point. They played super aggressively, and I think they did it with such confidence that they didn't doubt themselves or second guess themselves. They were making sure that the right members were down, even when that Graviton that came out from A10 wasn't necessarily or didn't quite end up how he wanted it to. Like, there wasn't the follow-up that was required, but Hidan using that Transcendence I thought was a little bit risky because you're using it so early, but it was able to be enough to pull them onto the point and take it back. But now coming out here onto Village, maybe Leo Dead's coming back on the Mei. This is actually something we've seen from him over the last couple of days. It's been questionable at times, but I think he has been actually doing fairly well on it. He's just going to make sure that he doesn't get too pressured to and have his cooldowns baited out, because that was something that we saw come up yesterday that caused him a problem.
All right, it's going to be the War of the Walls, but no, look at that. Hidon already gets the kill onto Wadio. HSL, they've got the free point cap.
Yeah, it looks like it, and that is kind of a shame for Orgless and Hungry, because generally on these control maps, if you're the first person to get the point, that's puts it very much in your favor to be taking the entire point. And of course, Orgless and Hungry can't afford to let HSL take village here, but looking like HSL going to be using their own wall to block Orgless and Hungry out. It is, as you say, going to be the War of the Walls.
Oh, and speaking of, Tech 36 split off, but again, in it comes, and Ben Henningsen just caught in that. And down falls Kagasi as well. Orgless and Hungry falling apart. That's the strength of the May composition.
It's just not taking that long to win these fights. It's kind of shocking. They're already getting to 30%, and now HSL moving forward to kind of get closer and closer to Orgless and Hungry's spawn. It'll allow them to farm up a little bit of ult charge, although he done there, even though he was throwing in his orbs of destruction, he actually already has his transcendence ready to go for the next fight.
Yeah, HSL with the absolute ult advantage right now.
Oh, for sure. Well, yeah, they're getting closer and closer. They're getting closer to that Blizzard, which is really important, because Orgless and Hungry, of course, have to regress onto this point to even attempt to take it. And in such a small, confined area, having the Blizzard go against you, you're at a big risk to get stuck.
Right, especially when you have no D.Va to eat it up. Blizzard is one of the easiest ultimates to eat in the game because of the long cast time and how telegraphed it is. But if you don't have a D.Va, doesn't matter that it's so telegraphed, because you still have to get on the point anyways. Chubbs, meanwhile, is dropping very low, gets shattered, but not before he fire strike Kagasi out. 2 kills, 3 actually come in for the Orgless and Hungry. They do have the advantage, but Tech 36 might be able to turn this around. He tosses down the Blizzard in the midst of that gravity. He's looking to get the Pierce Freeze onto the multiple members, but he can't. He's frozen by Leo Deads, who was able to dodge that Blizzard just barely, pushed him off. Orgless will get the recap at 87 for HSL.
I wasn't as big a fan of that Blizzard, because yes, while it may have been a decent opportunity, even though the enemy Transcendence was already up, but you know that you were gonna have the enemies frozen. Already, most of his team was kind of down, so there was never gonna be that follow-up. And so, yeah, he could try and use that Icicle to get those headshots, but as you say, Leo Deads managed to get the better of him, and Chubbs was really focused in that fight. So here they are, coming in behind his shield once again. If HSL managed to take this, then it should be an easy take for them for the entire map.
Right, and I like the wall for the aggression there that you're seeing from both these teams. Both the Mays use that to, you know, block members off, split them in the back line, and then they push in off of that. But it doesn't matter, because HSL, they walk right into the waiting arms of the Orgless and Hungry, and they decimate them.
Yeah, those two walls together forced the two teams in a very small space, but the thing was, Orgless and Hungry had their rally ready, so they had that extra armor to protect them in that fight, and that really gave them the advantage they needed in order to win the fight out. And now they're moving on to getting closer and closer to 60%. So actually, it couldn't be too long until Orgless and Hungry start matching the same percentage that HSL already have for themselves.
Really neck and neck so far. In comes the wall from Tech 36 to block everybody off. Graviton Surge tossed in, and there's the Blizzard as well to stack on top of that. Everybody's caught in it, but the Transcendence doing so good at keeping them alive, but it still doesn't matter. The Shatter comes through from Henningsen, and that was just... Man, you hate to see that happen. Grab into Blizzard, into Shatter. They might as well have just taken their hands off their keyboard.
It's just, you saw HSL Esports, they wanted to get out of it, and just no matter what they did, there was something to stop them from moving, and that's kind of the power of CC in this game. And now, Orgless and Hungry are about to overtake them, and that's really what they needed. It is a big investment. But even then, Orgless have both of their support ultimates ready to go to protect them.
Oh, that's the worst possible scenario there for HSL. They walk in and get split up. Chubbs and Sardis both down. Chubbs even uses the Shatter there, and now desperation time for the HSL. They use the beat just from FD God to get onto the point, but it's still, you can't get Tech 36 on, who has the Blizzard. Might have been able to do something with it, and the wall comes in to block off a 10, who just goes down. Orgless and Hungry, they've tied up the series. We're gonna go to a map 3.
I have to say, I'm really impressed. Orgless and Hungry seem to be showcasing something today which I don't think they really were doing yesterday, and that is the power of teamwork and coordinating. And You know, Leoded's, yes, I'd say he's been playing the Mei a little bit over the last few days, but today I was way more impressed with his usage of the walls. His timing was actually very, very good to be able to split up members of HSL and to be able to prevent certain resources being used. For example, we saw him put it in front of A10 to try and kind of hold back the time that he would use his Graviton. And yes, there was the issue where they couldn't necessarily eat the Blizzard, but the Blizzard that actually came out from HSL didn't get the value they were after. So moving now into Shrine, we kind of have these more standard GOATS compositions coming out again.
Right, Orgless and Hungry with an interesting push over on the Shrine side. I like that because, again, they're expecting possibly a Pharah, so they want to push through the close quarters where they don't need to use their shield to move through. And now there's just going to be a brawl near the Shrines because Orgless and Hungry walk right into the Ghost composition. HSL, they already have point presence, and they're just leveraging this right now to take down, pick off members of Orgless and Hungry. They will get the first cap.
And this is one of the really important things, right, is that HSL aren't trying to make these fancy schmancy rotations to try and play these mind games, but they're going straight for the point, and that means that, you know, your front line can aggress onto the enemy team. We saw the tanks right at the front there, while someone like Hidan, the supports at the back, can stay close to the point, cap that point, while also dealing damage in.
All right, Orgless and Hungry pushing into this, but again, because HSL won that first fight, something we talk about is they have the ultimate advantage now in terms of charge, and they can build it up. And if they use them wisely, then they can keep that ultimate economy throughout the entire game. Henningsen very low, Rally comes in, but it's not enough to save his life. Hidan will pick him off with the Orbs of Destruction. A10 gonna get stunned up on the side and dropped out by Leoded's there. But again, HSL, they still have the mana advantage. They're okay to lose their Zarya because A10 dies with the grab, so he won't miss out on it.
Yeah, Orgless and Hungry will be coming into the next fight with their self-destruct and the Transcendence, so they do have those things behind them. They're also very close for their Graviton, but this time, you know, we have Tech36 who is ready there with the Defense Matrix. Last time he was playing the Mei and didn't have that available, and this is where Berglund, if he's going to get caught out, it's really going to show. So Orgless and Hungry come back again to make the next rotation.
But HSL, the big six on the board for them. They've got all the ultimates available, and all they got to do is use them well, but use them wisely. They don't want to overinvest them into this fight. They want to hold on to the ultimate economy. Stardust going to use the rally to start things off. Chubb's looking for an opportunity for the shatter, but he might not need it. Henningsen is getting very, very bullied right now. And Orgless and Hungry, you see, they're put in a bad position where they have to get aggressive because HSL is just building up point percentage, and they need to kind of set the first pace and the first aggression. And here comes the bomb in the back line. 2 kills. Leodeds finds them. The shatter comes in from Chubbs. Is there going to be enough follow-up is the question, but no, Wario catches an armor pack and keeps himself alive. Orgless and Hungry clean up at 95% for HSL.
And now finally, Orgless and Hungry can start to get their own percentage on the point, and we saw this on Village. We thought that HSL definitely had the advantage, but ultimately Orgless and Hungry were able to take it. And this may be where they start to build up their own confidence and pull themselves together and start using that teamwork again that we've already seen. Kagasi, he has the rally ready to go, which is the perfect way to engage into a fight, giving you that armor. Now HSL Esports is trying to figure out how they're going to come in, how they're going to approach this fight.
And again, terrible scenario for HSL. They used all 5, almost 6 of their ultimates. FD God only holding another beat, which he's going to use now in response to Kagasi's rally. But Henningsen still has the shatter, but he won't get the opportunity to use it as A10 high charge finds the kill onto him. Tech36 is out of the mech, but it doesn't even matter. HSL can fight this even with 5.5 members of their team.
It just shows how much a high charge Zarya can do, and that's why you've got to be using those bubbles so well so that you can gain it all. But now they're stuck in a grab.
Oh, and the shatter's tossed in from Henningsen there. You know he would have loved to catch members with that, but no, it's just going to get blocked. Chubbs tosses down one of his own to end out this map. Kagasi returns on the Hammond, but how much can you do with this much damage on the point? OT meter burns down, and that's going to be that. HSL take the early lead here on Nepal.
I think something important that we are kind of learning as a result of this map that's just been played is when it comes down to playing those mirror GOATS compositions, Orgless and Hungry just don't stand up as much. You know, they really did well when they were playing a slightly different composition, and they had this DPS that came out, and Leodeds had been able to sort of get the finesse on how he was going to approach playing his Mei. But when it comes to the GOATS versus GOATS, HSL are just better, and one thing that we did know over the last couple of days is that A10 has almost been their star player, but what I actually really liked about watching them just then is it felt a lot more like a team rather than revolving around one star player.
All right, well, we're going to throw to a quick break, but we will be back with map 2 very, very shortly. Do not go anywhere. All right, we're back. HSL versus Orgless and Hungary. HSL did take that first lead on Nepal, but now we're on Nimbani. Hybrid map. Gio, what are we going to see from HSL? They're starting off on the defense.
Well, they've shown to us that they can play tanks really well, but you know, me being me, I would love to see some DPS. We know that Sardis plays a very good
Yes.
Pharah, and actually Numbani first is the sort of point where it's not actually that uncommon to see a Pharah. I'm also a really, really big fan of seeing Annas on this map because on this map. But it's looking right now like they are going to come out on that Winston Goats instead of being a little bit more creative with the DPS. Now, it's obviously really important to have a Winston on this point because of all those different high grounds. You need to really be able to get between them. You don't want to be playing anything too ground focused because if the attacking team makes a dive on, for example, one of your supports who is up on the high ground, you're not going to be able to access it. So it's kind of, I suppose, a little bit standard for this map. So we'll see how it fares with what August and Hungary seem to be coming out with their attack.
Right, but again, don't want to cast or curse it, but if they do run this composition, I don't know. I'm a little bit questioning no tank. Oh, I see the Torb. That's what I want to see. I want to see the Torbjorn sometime during this match, but unfortunately,
it's actually looking right now like Tang and Henningsen are going out to scout, and then they'll probably come back with some intel to let August and Hungary know, here we go, they're switching up their composition appropriately here. It looks like that they're going to be actually running something very similar, except with Henningsen on the Reinhardt, which is quite interesting because it does limit what they can do as far as movement goes. They kind of have to come up through this rotation that they're making now.
Right, but again, because they are running that Reinhardt, they have a little bit of an edge in terms of the close range game because Reinhardt just does more DPS than Winston. You know, who would have thought that smacking people with a hammer does more damage than electrocuting them? But in comes Leo Deads here, leading that charge, getting the booster, knocking people back. But Chubbs, he proves me wrong. He gets the first kill into Wadio there, and now they've set up a bit of a pincer position onto the Orgless and Hungary, where they can just move in, shut them all down. They're already down a few members, and that's going to be that.
And this is the thing with playing Reinhardt on this map, is it leaves your supports very vulnerable, and we saw there that the supports were really the first to go down at the hands of Chubbs. So see, this is the thing that Henningsen needs to decide now, is does he change onto the Winston, which gives them a little bit more flexibility in how they approach their attack, because he's getting closer and closer to that Earth Shatter, but then you also have to to deal with the fact that maybe an Earth Shadow is not the best ultimate for this point if everyone's in different places.
Oh, and there you go. A10, the first one to drop. So does Stardust. The defense might be beginning to fall apart here as Chubbs goes down. An instant triple kill for the Orgless and Hungry. That's exactly what they wanted to do. They even draw out the beat from FD God.
Yeah, there you go. They were a little bit more assertive with how they approach their attacks. So HSL Esports will have their chance to switch up their own composition here, as we see Chubb switching onto the Reinhardt, ready for this Streets phase. He'll be able to use his shield to have the rest of the team behind him. And this is where an Earth Shadow will be a lot more valuable because it is kind of a linear sort of geometry. But, you know, August, don't forget the point.
The smart thing there was that Orgless and Hungry, while they approached that, Kigasi got the stun at the Chubbs and moved him off the high ground on the Winston, so he had to invest his cooldown to get back up, but he didn't have a barrier set up, so A10 was just a super easy target for Orgless and Hungry to finish off. And again, once that Zarya is down, we talked about that, A10, a lot of times when he dies, the team falls with him, and in comes the grab bomb combo right in the midst of the team. Tech 36 hits a big one. Beautiful charge from Chubbs to make that work, and HSL will hold the cart at the corner.
You're talking about A10 being an easy target, and we saw that Berglund clearly thought the same thing as he tried to flank around the Rhine shield to get some damage on him, but ultimately A10 was able to lay down that Graviton Surge, combine it with Tech 6's self-destruct, and there we go, the fight was over. So now HSL Esports showing us that key aggression that we've seen so far, pushing them kind of back to spawn, and it's almost like they have to deal with a defense once again on this first point.
Right, and that's the difficult part because you can't really push through that one spawn. You have to come around the side here like Orgless and Hungry are doing right now down Main Street. And Tech 36, I love his positioning here, holding on the high ground, but he can't quite eat up the Graviton Surge that he would have liked. That's what he was going for, and he does get caught out with the bomb there from Leo Deads. Just add insult to injury. Chubbs does get the counter pick though onto Stardust. Speed comes in from FD God trying to sustain. In comes the Shatter. They knock down two. Stardust and A10. Can they get the finish though? Chubbs falls. Was trying to hold the shield up and protect his backline, but it just isn't enough. Berglund high charge on a killing frenzy right now.
Yeah, and it does mean that as HSL come into this next fight, they're actually pretty low for ultimates. They're very close to their Graviton Surge, but that's about it. And with Orgless and Hungry holding two of those support ultimates, they're actually going to be very well protected if they play their cards right. So HSL probably going to be wanting to try and get in that damage while also trying to be on the lookout for ultimates that Orgless and Hungry could put into them, because this is going to be a little bit of a race, because often in these 3-3 compositions we see team fights often get won by the most valuable ult.
All right, I like this. HSL with a bit of a flanking approach to the payload, not head on, but from behind. However, you got all the members of Orgless and Hungry just set up on that high ground because of that nice Graviton Surge. Going to be denied there from Tech 36. He eats up the one from Berglund. Couldn't quite get it last time, but he does this time. A10 tosses the grab of his own. HSL, but there is the Transcendence from both of the Zenyatas. They've drawn out, but now Orgless and Hungry have no support ultimates. HSL doesn't either, but FD God is closer to the beat than Tang is, so he can build it up faster. Bomb comes in. Chubbs tosses down the Shatter. Doesn't really find anything with it, unfortunately. But again, HSL, they don't have the man advantage at the moment as A10 just drops, but they have the health advantage. Everybody is nice and healthy on them. FD God just drops the beat as the rally comes in from Kigasi. They're evened out in terms of support ultimates. The beat might just be the extra strength they need, but Chubbs is fired back by Orgless and Hungry. Leo Dead's going to be popped out of the mech, and this is a really back and forth fight as the payload is only 3 meters away from making it there. Tech 36 again! The man is unstoppable. Eats another one of Berglund's grabs up. Looks like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He is there for it. However, Berglund does still get the kill into Stardust, and Hidana's built up another Transcendence. FD God secures the kill onto Tang. Here's a big opportunity for the HSL Esports. Orgless and Hungry have got nothing in the tank left, and they finally clean up and will push the payload into the third point. Or actually, no, HSL defends. I'm getting myself all confused here. That's how chaotic that fight was.
It's just so crazy. But this is where you see the true power of a damage-dealing Zenyatta, as Hidan was able to build out that other Transcendence, and that ultimately was what kept the team alive enough to push Orgless and Hungry away right at the end there, because honestly, there was part of that fight where I thought that Orgless were going to be able to take it, but no, when you've got a kind of clutch Transcendences like that, anything can happen, I suppose. But Henningsen getting ready to use this next.
Oh, uses it. Gets Hidan in the backline. They need to finish him off, but no, Henningsen gonna get stunned up, and now he's isolated in a really bad position. Finished off. Wadio not quite fast enough with the Transcendence. Payload only 2.23 meters away. Trying to get the push under the bomb. Catches Berglund with it, but Again, HSL with such a large man advantage. A10 dies as usual, it seems, in these fights. Orgless, they might be turning it around. They catch the triple. Tech 36 gone as well. They've done it. But only a minute and 30.
Overtime, yeah, before overtime even hits. So you're right, they do just have over a minute and a half to get it to this last point, and this can be a tough point to deal with. And I think we saw that FD God kind of desperately trying to use his boops to keep Watio's Transcendence away from the rest of his team, but ultimately it wasn't enough. So Orgless and Hungry should be coming into this next fight with a lot of confidence, but not a lot of ultimates.
Chubbs with the Shatter playing this corner. That's what you want to do because you have the opportunity for the sneaky shatters around the shield, but he's very, very low. The target focuses on him. In comes the Graviton Surge into the backline of the Orgless and Hungry, catching everybody, but Chubbs is again the first target, and he drops. He was low that entire time, shows you how much Orgless and Hungry were trying to remove him from the fight, and they do just that. Stardust is gone as well. Chubbs will return just because of how close the spawns is, but he's coming back again into a fight that's staggered. The rest of his team is dying, so wisely he just uses, I'm not going to return. I'm just going to stay in spawn.
Orgless and Hungry are coming into this map with a vengeance, but it is, of course, in HSL Esports' interest to kind of back off so they can get in this extra fight before Orgless make it right to the end, because the payload is moving as fast as it can, and time is running out.
Leo Dead's knocked down. They need to get the finish on and pop him out of his mech. They do just that, and in comes the bomb. They draw out the self-destruct, so they won't be able to combo it with Berglund's Graviton Surge, which he does not have at the moment. Is building it up from ground zero. Wadio, though, very close to this Transcendence, and you know he would have liked that to save the life of Henningsen and sustain the rest of his team as HSL just clean up. Tech 36 blows Wadio to bits. He's never going to get to use that Transcendence. OT burning down. 3 meters left. So HSL, that's exactly what they wanted to do. Burn it down where they don't need to push it all the way and force more. They just got to get it right there in that big old yellow rectangle of victory.
It was so disappointing for Orgless and Hungry there. It looks so good for them, and I actually really like kind of how even these fights are starting to look, because as we kind of spoke about at the start, both these teams, they've kind of come in with sort of disappointing track records so far, and they're really showing what they're made of and what they can build up as they start to develop the synergy in these teams. So now it's going to be HSL's turn to be doing the attack, and it must feel so good to know that they don't have to get it all the way to the end, because that can make all the difference. Because obviously if both teams manage to get those 3 points, then it will go into other rounds, and that puts you at a lot more of a risk to lose the map. So Orgless and Hungry, they're going to have to be developing a very strong defense, and I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah, that's the of course what you want to see every single time, right? 2 instead of 3, just the 2. And HSL, they're in a great position to win out this map here, and again, it's going to be on to their attack. How are they going to approach this first point? Are they going to run goats, or are they not going to run goats?
I'm actually pretty interested if they stick with what they've got at the moment, because I think Leodad's being on the Mei, he wants to be able to wall off this entrance so they're all gathering around here, because perhaps they're expecting HSL to come in on the Reinhardt kind of similarly to they did, and they know that this entrance is going to be the key one. But if Chubbs does come in on that Wrecking Ball, being able to use that pile driver not only to cause a distraction and to mess up the comms and put pressure on the team, but he can also use it to come straight down onto Leodad. So he's going to be pretty vulnerable, and a pile driver causes 100 damage, so he only has to do that a couple of times or have someone follow up on the damage, and Leodad is gone.
Exactly. Well, Chubbs will roll out on the Hammond. Might be returning to spawn, however, to swap back. You're seeing Tech 36 there do a little bit of scouting, and perhaps they're waiting out for when they can hit tab and again see what Orgless and Hungry are running. So they scout out that Mei without ever actually seeing it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any changes. Oh, here we go. So FD Ball coming in on Bessie. Here we go. Sardis on the Pharah. Like this is what I like to see. Sardis
Ashe on the field.
Is A10 on the Ashe. Of course, you love to see those really good Zarya's playing the hit scans, and we have seen some fantastic Ashe play over the last couple of days. And Chubbs just goes straight on the point.
That's perfect, because now you have to drop members onto the point, and they are just easy targets for... They've given up the first tick here, actually, and they trade back and forth. Chubbs returns to the back line, gets the grapple hook kill onto Wadio there. Orgless and Hungry down members, and look at this. This is perfect. Look at the amount of pressure that Stardust is putting onto them. They're trying to back up from the DPS line of Tech 36 and A10, but as they're backing up, they're walking into the rockets of Stardust, the damage-boosted rockets even.
And this is what happens when you have these hypermobile compositions doing the attack against something like a a GOAT's core composition that doesn't have that, because the Ashe, the Pharah, the Wrecking Ball can just sort of get around the map very quickly using whether it's the Concussive Blast, the Coach Gun, the Grapple, and it causes a massive issue because it means if Orgless and Hungry have to turn around and change their mind, it's going to take them quite a while, and in that time, HSL can get those ticks.
All right, HSL, they're facing Orgless and Hungry with the Rhine Goats versus the Winston Goats with the Moira here. Chubbs knocked into the team, and FD God gets the first kill onto Tang, finds the opposing Lucio's number, and he's going to call him up and say, hey, I'm the Alpha Lucio around here. I'm the one getting these kills, and it will be HSL cleaning up.
Yeah, it hasn't taken them long, and I think something that's really good about how these two attacks have gone is because the first one was so short, they didn't need to worry about losing ultimates by switching off the composition. So they just came into the second fight knowing, okay, well, we're going to be aggressive and we're going to farm up this ultimate charge by, you know, laying in our damage. And look, already they've got 2 on the board, getting very close to another 2 with the self-destruct and the rally. And that means that coming into this next fight, they're going to be even better prepared and sort of, they just seem very unfazed. Orgless and Hungry have hardly touched them.
Exactly, and Wadio, again, the first pick. Beautiful from Hedon, always getting these opener picks, it seems, on the Zenyatta. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. FD God does secure that next kill onto Henningsen. Graviton Surge toss into the point from Orgless and Hungry, but they're not going to find a whole lot from that. Meanwhile, HSL tosses one of their own, and they catch those 3 members. They will push it into third point with a really, really good time bank.
Yeah, I think Leoded's aim there with the wall was to try and prevent the cleave damage from going into the Graviton Surge, but yeah, ultimately it wasn't enough. HSL still kind of rolling through. They have this momentum now, and this is a really important factor in fights like this when you have compositions like this, is oftentimes if you get this momentum, if you can generate these cyclical ults that you generate off of another member's ults, then you're just gonna kind of roll through very quickly.
All right, Chubbs, let's see you hit the chubby shatters. We talked about these ones yesterday, but no, Henningsen gonna put an end to that before it happens. Orgless with a quick 3 kills to secure the defense for the time being, but 4 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock, no sweat for HSL.
Yeah, at that point, they knew to back out. There was no point in wasting any of their resources or ultimates on a fight that they didn't need to win. Because at this point, they do have so much time on the board, and that's a really important thing you have to consider, is the fact that not every fight in Overwatch you have to win. You just have to know what you want out of the fight. And in this case, they want to be farming up that charge, maybe moving the payload, but they have enough time to not worry about that. So they don't need to win it for another couple of fights. And they also don't need to worry about their final time bank, because Orgless and Hungry didn't make it to the end.
Exactly. That's exactly what we talked about at the very beginning. When the side swap is, this is the ideal situation for HSL to take this and move it to a 2-0, which will put them in match point territory here. But the HSL, again, going for these dry pushes, building their ults, and now they've got them on the board, they've got them available. They're going to be moving in with the Graviton Surge to start things off. Tech 36 trying to follow up on that by diving in. A nice wall, though, from Leodeds to split them off, and Chubbs, the first target once more. And A10 falls not soon after. And Orgless and Hungry will clean up again.
Yeah, Leodeds is causing some issues with those walls. He's really getting in the way, and once again, HSL don't need to worry too much, because once they've built up those last 2 ultimates, they're going to be coming in with 6, and they have enough protection. And we've seen how Tech 36 has been positioning himself on those high grounds to be ready to eat Berglund's Gravitons, and we've seen him do it twice at least before. So Orgless and Hungry are going to be thinking, okay, this is our win condition, but I don't think Tech 36 is really breaking a sweat about it.
HSL playing around the corner here just for the time being to recuperate themselves, you know, take a breath before moving into this fight. 2 minutes and 32 seconds on the clock. Wall comes in. Chubbs, he's got to stay alive here. He will be able to be kept alive by the beat, but in comes the Graviton Surge as well as the Blizzard. You saw Tech 36, they're trying to eat it, but it's going to get frozen up. Hedon's Transcendence will prevent the damage from coming in, but again, the Shatter from Henningsen will knock them flat on their backs once more, and HSL are being pushed back by the relentless defense of the Orgless and Hungry.
Yeah, Orgless and Hungry really actually invested a lot into that fight. They used the Blizzard, they used that Earth Shatter just to try and keep HSL Esports away, but not only did they invest, they forced HSL to invest themselves, and so that means they don't have the Transcendence anymore. Although, you know, if Hidan, if what we've seen is anything to go by, he might be able to build it up in the next fight, but it is a big ask, and they are now down to 1 minute 42 seconds, so they don't have those 4 minutes left, and they do need to be trying to get it to the end here. They got to get it to that magic 68.41 meter mark. So here they go, coming in once again. Don't want to fall victim to one of Leodez's walls again, because it's really been forcing them to take very narrow routes, which can often put them in vulnerable positions.
Yeah, man, I said no sweat for HSL, but now is when they need to start sweating. They have not really moved this payload at all, and in comes the Graviton Surge, but HSL, they've got all their ultimates online. They've got the big six. If they're gonna make a push, it's gonna be this next one.
Well, they've got to make the push before Henningsen actually manages to end them all. I mean, this is the thing. The payload has hardly moved while it's been here. And
1 minute.
Yeah, they've got the ultimates. Don't waste them all. We've seen these fights where so many ultimates come out, and ultimately, the thing that you have to remember is usually it's the last ultimate to be used is the one that determines the fight. So don't rush into it. Don't waste. Don't use your 2 support ultimates in one go. If they're methodical about this, if they target cool, if they prioritize, they should be okay.
All right. Grab in, Tech 36 trying to follow up there with the bomb as well. Charge comes in, but he's going to miss onto Henningsen, and disaster might strike here as he's not there to protect his team, but Hidan's got everybody covered with that Transcendence. Leodez and Tang both knocked down, and Leodez is found, but Chubbs is still the target there and falls to a nice kick from Wadio. B comes in from the HSL. Orgless and Hungry trying to sustain here for the time being, but their members are dropping. HSL will start to push the cart. Chubbs swaps over to the Hammer to get back as soon as possible.
Yeah, he's going to be trying to get back really quickly, but Orgless and Hungry, their spawn is right there, and they too getting back quickly, Blizzard. So they are able to touch, and the Blizzard is coming out.
But Henningsen falls first off all, and 0.8 meters left on the clock, and overtime is there. You see the Tracer come out from Kegasi, and he's able to get the one clip, but no! The payload makes it there. HSL Esports, they've taken the lead. We're moving into match point 2-0.
Ooh, the pressure is on Orgless and Hungry, and it is a shame because they put up such a strong defense on that last point there, and especially how they really targeted down onto Chubbs. He used his Earth Shatter, and it got one member, but it wasn't followed up on because I think a lot of HSL were thinking, okay, we've got limited time, we've got to try and bring down this team, and maybe comms fall apart a little bit, but ultimately, even once Chubbs was taken down, they were able to push forward without their main tank. He was obviously busy changing into his big wrecking ball suit to kind of get back quickly, but Orgless and Hungry had to do the same thing. Even though their spawn was right there and they had the advantage, they still changed onto things like wrecking ball, like Tracer, to get on in time. But the power of HSL just standing there, they've stayed on, for the most part, the heroes that have been working for them, that they know that they can coordinate together. We're just able to bring Orgless and Hungry down very quickly at the end there and make it into that very last point.
And if you might notice, we have Nairi back with us as well. I'm sure you've been waiting to talk about these games.
Dude, I have so many notes and I don't even know where to start. These games have been so good. So I just want to pull it back to Nepal for a second here, because one of the big notes that I had 2 big notes here. The one was HSL liked to throw a lot of ultimates, and they would, especially straight after they first taken the point the first time, they would continuously jump onto point and keep throwing ultimates just to extend that time over and over again. And usually you would think, well, that's terrible. Why are you wasting your ultimates? Did you see how fast their ultimates recharged? They didn't care. They were relying on the fact that they knew they would build up their ultimates in like 10 seconds. And it really, really worked out for them. The other thing that I noticed was the power of isolation on that second map, using those May walls so good. I absolutely loved it. And the isolation, we saw that on Numbani as well. Leodad's on that May on 3rd point. The May didn't work out too well on 1st and 2nd point, let's be honest. But with that spawn advantage, with those tiny chokes, those May walls were doing so much to just keep HSL out. Unfortunately for Orgless, however, HSL, so powerful. Hidan, did you guys see him fragging out?
I did.
He was
3Ks
insane
in the kill feed?
Yeah, crazy.
I mean, yeah, that was one thing that I mentioned, is that Hidan, he was able to build these Transcendence, kind of as you said, like they can build their ultimates really quickly, but he would build another Transcendence within the same fight because he was just doing like 99.9% of the damage. not a hyperbole, by the way. But also going back to your point about Leodets, I think this is the thing with him is he always knows what he wants to achieve with the Mei because he picks it quite a lot and he always goes for these similar kinds of plays with the isolation. But one thing that we saw yesterday him getting caught out on a lot was either being distracted or getting the timing wrong or misjudging what the enemy team were going to do. And perhaps it was a bit of a misjudgment on the first point of Numbani because obviously HSL came out with that Pharah composition, the Pharah Ash, that ended up bringing down Orgless and Hungry very, very quickly. But when, yeah, absolutely. But when he is in a position and he's focused and he does have the upper hand, he's still attempting to do the same thing and achieve the same results with that Mei wall for the isolation purposes, for, you know, mitigating what's going to happen when the enemy lays down an ultimate, like preventing that follow-up. And it works very well when it does work.
And something else that I noticed is that Orgless and Hungry, you know, you get into these scrappy ultimate fights that are quite common with goats. I'm not talking about, okay, no, everybody's got no ult charge and we're just gonna fight it out on point. I'm talking when like 12 people hit Q at the same time. And I found that Orgless always managed to just edge out the win in those scrappy fights, except for third point Numbani when HSL had the spawn advantage. But throughout the course of this game, they have consistently been winning those scrappy ult fights. Their ultimate usage is so good. They know exactly when to use which ult. And as Gio said during the cast, the last person to use an ultimate in those scrappy fights is usually the most impactful ultimate. However, the one time that it made a huge difference was when HSL made that massive rotation around second point and Tech 36 just ate 2 grabs.
Well,
Sure, why not?